Okay. Last time on Dungeon Dumps,
Oh, I got another blood free roll.
you guys
Bendo.
were given free reign. You were each given a pendant from the Harpers to go out and get your affairs in order because you were coming back to a serious, basically catastrophe to stop. So you each are going to have your opportunity to tell the story for your characters, what they've been doing, what's happened to them, how they've evolved, so on and so forth. And when the time comes and your character is ready, your pendant will break and bring you back to the exact moment where he left you off. So basically, you all started your stories in Winter Haven when you were sent back from the High Harper's room, his meeting room, and that's where you picked up. So I know Key and Russ, y'all have y'all's together. If you just want to go ahead and do y'all's first, we'll go around everyone else since y'all kind of are working in tandem. So we pick up with y'all's story, Ruz and Meryl.
And this takes place like that same night that we just went to the house and just went to bed.
Yeah.
Well, you went to bed together?
No, we're in separate rooms.
Oh.
I'm a lady.
It's actually a few days later.
Sure.
Oh, it's a few days later. Okay.
Or at least that's how I was picturing it. But it's just a couple of days after the events in the Shadowfell, and Ruz is in bed that night.
Sorry. Kyle's massive drink.
Kyle's going to be one of those guys that shows popcorn.
Calorie-free Arnold Palmer.
Arnold Palmer. I was like, why is there golf on your drink?
Arnold Palmer.
Sweet tea and golf. You don't know they go together?
That's racist. Or is it a stereotype?
So?
That's very old money of you, Kyle.
Very old money. In fact, I think you should have a top hat and monocle.
I thank you. I think I will.
All right, so
guys, I don't appreciate you making racist jokes when I'm not in the room.
Poor Russ. He's tried to start a story like 4 times.
I got used to this when I DM'd for you guys.
Oh.
You got used to having your conversations trampled on by everybody?
Yeah, pretty much.
It's because we're funnier than
that
you.
and names made fun of.
Names made fun of, and Russ would 9 times out of 10 have to start his explanation of what was happening currently in the storyline 6 times before anybody would really pay attention to him.
Well, not only would he get interrupted, but then there'd be like the 1 or 2 people who didn't hear it, and so they're like,
Yeah.
wait, what happened?
Like 10 minutes later, something like,
Who's gay? What?
wait, that
Who's
was
left with a dragon?
wait, that was a dragon?
That was me.
Okay, go ahead, Russ.
All right, so that night, Ruz is lying in his bed, just staring at the ceiling. He hasn't slept in like 2 days, and he just every time he starts to drift off, the battle with Calorel replays in his mind, and the moment where Calorel just sort of reveals his identity and his secrets to everyone.
His dick finger secrets.
Yeah, and it's just replayed over and over in his mind. And he keeps going back to that moment where he felt himself lose control of his appearance, and he felt everything just sort of shift away, and he felt himself sort of exposed for the first time in years. And he hadn't taken that form in front of anyone since he had been very young, and so he had felt very exposed and very vulnerable, and he's just very upset about those secrets that were revealed during that battle. He's sure that he's noticed the others staring at him behind his back, or sort of staring at him when he isn't looking, and he thinks that when he comes into a room, that people are talking and they suddenly stop whenever he enters the room, and he's just sure that the rest of the party is talking about him behind his back and whispering about him, and so he decides to do what he always does when people start getting suspicious of him in a particular place, and bolt. And so that night he makes up his mind and just like a ghost just leaves through the window in the middle of the night. And
Why would a ghost have to use a window?
you didn't know that ghosts can't go through walls.
Oh.
Only windows.
He didn't use his ethereal form yet.
Yeah. He's a very solid ghost. So he travels through just a succession of small villages and towns, and he does what he always does. He cheats and swindles his way into a bit of pocket change. So in one town, he'll sell a fake diamond ring as the real thing, and then or pawn it off and then skip town. In the next town, he'll cheat a bunch of farmers out of their spending money at cards or dice. In one town, he runs into a young sort of country lord, and manages to cheat him out of all of his clothing, and just leaves the guy at the poker table basically, in his underwear, and leaves with these really fancy clothes. And so he's just sort of aimlessly wandering, but he knows he's headed in the direction of a big city. That's where he wants to be. And so after a few weeks, he ends up in the city of Suzail. And he walks into Suzail, and he has taken the appearance of sort of
Talos.
No,
A beloved figure from history.
not Talos.
Plus 5 DM points.
He's got some balls, but maybe not that big. But he's taken the appearance of a sort of a middle-aged man, sort of medium height, very fine clothes, and it's the appearance of a wealthy merchant lord's son, who is very close in line to the throne after the royal family. So a very prominent, powerful lord, his son and heir. And so he's walking through town feeling better than he's felt in a few weeks. People are looking at him and whispering, but in a good way, like, "Oh, hey, look, it's that guy." And he walks by a group of young noble women, and they're all looking at him and sort of curtsying and fanning themselves. He just winks at them, and they all just kind of start giggling and whispering to each other.
One swims and falls out of a chair.
Exactly. She sort of passes out. He feels good.
He waves at him and accidentally turns into penis.
Oh, pretty face.
One for each of you.
One woman starts fanning faster.
So
Oh
he
my!
he's just sort of strolling down the street without any real purpose.
George Decay.
Looking for somebody to
Gotta cool
con.
down.
And he sees in the window of a shop a flash of red, and it catches his eye. And so he turns and sort of cautiously walks toward the store, and it's this old like apothecary, like it sells just sort of mundane potion ingredients and medical ingredients, that sort of things for healing potions and that kind of stuff. But he sees in the window a small jar of red dragon scales, and that's not that wouldn't be something completely unusual, but just the way that these are arranged, it tells him that this place is a front for the Red Scales, his Assassin's Guild, and he had no idea that there was any presence of the Red Scales in Suzail, but he gets this idea in his head that what he really needs to forget the recent events is just a good, nice, clean job. He needs some work. He needs to get things not clean, not really clean, but
A hand job?
yeah. No.
Those are always messy, Robert.
That's true. Not if you wear a condom.
Ew.
The least satisfying HJ
Wow.
ever. So he decides that's what he really needs to get things off his mind.
I'm not sure how to
For
respond
the
to that, Robert.
prostitute, for the prostitute with nasty hand job condoms.
Oh man.
Have you not seen I Love You Man, where he talks about he has in his jerk off stations he has condoms.
Oh yeah.
He's like, "Say, because they help me last longer and there's no messy cleanup."
Keep going, Ross.
Sorry, sorry, Russ.
So he walks into the shop, and a few hours later, walks back out with a bit more purpose in his step, and he's no longer in the form of this Cormyrean lord, but looks more like his old self, the sort of tall, thin, dark-haired man with green eyes, and he's got a bit more purpose in his step, and as he's walking, he's thinking about this assignment, this job that he's taken, and he bumps into someone, and as he turns to look, he sees a familiar face. And then he feels a flash of pain on his face, and sort of sees stars. And then he's looking up from the ground, at Meryl.
Nice. That kind of works out how I bumped into you. Anyway. All right. So this starts Meryl's little journey. It's that same first night where Ruz, leapt from the window. Meryl had not been getting any good sleep. Probably not a lot of us have after what had happened. Tossing and turning each night, in and out of sleep, just constantly. Whatever. You're the DM. Of course you're gonna sleep good, or well. Anyway, on this particular night, some unexplained force, a voice in her head, I don't know, something tells her to get up. So she does. She gets up and walks through the halls of the house, just kind of going back and forth. All of a sudden, she feels a breeze. She turns and looks, and it's coming out from under Ruz's room. Let's see. So she kind of slowly walks up, creaks open the door, and notices the window's wide open. Looks down at the bed. Ruz is gone. So she takes it. She takes this opportunity, runs to her room, gets all of her equipment, her great sword, her armor, and then runs out the door, hoping to chase down Ruz. She kind of thinks to herself, like, what is drawing her to Ruz? She's not sure what it is. Is it camaraderie? Is it pity? Is it love? Or is it something else?
Pity.
It's probably pity.
Mostly.
It's that pale porcelain skin.
That sexy, those sexy penis fingers.
I was about to say that's 10 potential penises.
That secret
11.
look.
Whoa.
21
Anyway.
if you count toes.
Stubbies.
That's a chub.
Anyway, she heads out of the city gates and begins to go down the road, and she thinks to herself, this is probably going to be a fruitless travel. She thinks to herself, I have little tracking experience. Ruz probably won't leave much to follow with his skill set. She only has one advantage really, and she's adventured with him. So she has a small insight to his personality and how he handles himself, but she doesn't really think that'll be of any help. A few miles down the road, she sees an older gentleman beside a cart. He's down on his hands and knees, like really close to the ground. It looks like he's searching for something. She approaches the man, asks if he needs any assistance. The man says he lost his glasses and he's searching for them on the ground. What's going on, Robert? Okay. Meryl asks.
I'm listening.
Meryl asks, when's the last time you saw them? The man answers, well, I was chatting with this handsome, smooth-talking gentleman, and then I sneezed and my glasses fell off my face. Meryl answers, you sneezed and your glasses fell off? That's kind of weird. The man answers, yes, it is. That's never happened before now that I think about it. Oh, won't you help me? I can't see to steer my horse, and if I can't steer my horse, I can't deliver this small cart of weapons. Meryl looks at the cart and notices there are no weapons or horse attached to this cart. And then she thinks to herself, this might be easier than she first thought. Sorry.
It's funny.
Does that fit, Bruce?
That's exactly what I was imagining.
Good. That was mostly what I spent my time coming up with, was that little situation. Anyway, Meryl follows the trail of cheated and robbed villagers, and the trail seems to go cold in Suzel. This makes her a little unhappy because it's where she grew up and it's where her family lives. Despite her best judgment, she decides to visit her father. He's more or less the same as when she left, full of himself with a new girl who's probably younger than Meryl, latched to his arm. He doesn't even get up out of his chair to meet her, just calls the butler to see to her needs. Let's see. And all her father wants to talk about is when is she going to learn her role, start wearing dresses, go to noble parties, and find a suitable husband who will take care of her. All Meryl can think is like, when he says take care of you, he means wear as a trophy or a medal. And it means to birth him heirs so his property and money won't return to the king. Meryl had enough of her father's uncaring attitude towards her and just stormed out. Steaming mad, she wasn't really watching where she was going and ran into a young man. Even without even an apology or to looking to see if he was okay, she continued down the road until she heard a familiar voice. Meryl! She turns and looks at the man, I guess sitting on the ground, and it was Ruz. Looking the same way he did when they were adventuring together. She gathers all her strength, to hold back a single tear and yells Ruse and approaches him.
So Ruse is looking up from the ground at Meryl, and he just has this, this intuition, this feeling, and he decides to ask Meryl along on his assignment, his job. He figures they've worked together before, and they made a pretty good team. And Meryl has a quick tongue. She's quick on her feet. She thinks fast. She's a pretty good compliment to his bluff skills, his deceit. And so y'all are making this really weird.
Because it is really weird.
So you fast forward a few weeks, and the two are deep underground in the Underdark.
It's the only place we could go to get some privacy.
Right. They're waiting and hiding behind a
Job.
Little did you realize the spiders are watching.
Man, I'm a pervert.
It's about to get a lot worse.
Yes.
Good.
Robert,
The two are waiting and
make
hiding.
sure you're listening.
Yeah. The two are waiting and hiding behind a stalagmite, and there's a creaking, rumbling, squealing noise, sort of coming toward them down a tunnel, and it sort of opens out into this large cavern that they're in, and they're hiding behind this stalagmite, and Meryl says to Rue, she says, you have a plan, right? This is kind of crazy. And Rue says, of course I don't have a plan. This is how I operate. Didn't you know?
Yes.
And so as the sort of creaking and squealing noise, grinding noise gets louder, they see from around the bend in this tunnel a strange ship appear. And it looks like a sailing ship, like a sailing vessel, almost like maybe a large longboat. But it lost my place. But it's made entirely of metal, and instead of sails and sailing through the water, of course, it's underground, and so it's moving along on these tread-like wheels, steered by what look like oars. But the men are pulling on these oars, but there's no paddle on the end. They just end about a foot after they leave the side of the boat. And on the end of this strange ship is a large drill, where the figurehead or a ram would be. And it's made of this sort of dark purple crystalline material. And then flying above the ship is a strange banner that looks something like this.
Is that a butthole on a flag?
Oh my gosh.
They may have not intended it to be a butthole, but it straight up looks like a butthole.
For the denizens of YouTube that don't have eyes to see this, it's basically a brown flag with a dark brown circle in it and what looks like a six-legged spider in the center of
It
it.
looks kind of like the face of the thief from Castle Crashers.
Barry, put that up. So there's this bizarre ship coming toward them on these treads, and Ruse just steps out and he's probably 50 yards from it and just hails it. He says, "Ahoy the vessel!" And it sort of
Ahoy.
slowly grinds to a halt. The men are pushing back on the strange oars, and it sort of grinds to a halt just a few feet in front of Ruse.
Churning butter.
And
That's the most homoerotic ship I've ever heard of.
a man just decked out in sailor gear, but all in sort of this shiny black material, steps sort of forward on the prow and says, "Arr, who you be?" And Ruse explains to him that they're explorers in the Underdark and they've gotten lost and they would like to buy passage on this strange ship. And he says, "I've never seen a ship like this. Who are you? What is this ship?" And the man says, "Yar, we be tunnel pirates. This be our ship, the Dark Spear."
The dark phallic.
Listeners beware, prepare for enormous amounts of phallic innuendo.
And homoerotic fan fiction.
And duty references.
Prepare for your minds to be boarded by penis jokes.
So this be our ship, the Dark Spear.
At least
We
they
be
didn't call
piercing the bowels of the very earth.
At least
Yar, we raid the very tunnels of the Drow. And so Ruz speaks with the captain for a moment and convinces him to take he and Meryl as passengers. Says that they can pay their way, but also that Meryl has some experience sailing a ship, though obviously not this particular type of ship. So who knows if those skills
Pirates, not again.
skills will transfer. They're so not into her.
No.
So
We're looking at Ruse pretty heartily.
yeah. So Ruz and Meryl board the ship.
Quick look like a girl.
And the captain introduces himself again as Captain Longshaft, and says, "This is me first mate, Richard."
Does he go by Dick?
Why, yes, he does. Quite frequently, in fact.
And so
And this be the chef, Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. And this be the first mate's first mate, E.E. Cummings.
Richard.
Dick. So Ruz and Meryl voyage for a while on the Dark Spear, sailing through the dark passages of the inner earth of the Underdark.
So
And,
Meryl's been riding on a dark spear.
Yeah, you know.
Nothing new.
Once you go black, what can you say?
You're gonna need a wheelchair.
Once you go black, you're going to need a wheelchair.
I like that one that's once you go black, you're a single mom.
Barry, edit that out. So
Don't post this.
Too late.
So they voyage with the ship for a while, and they have a few various encounters with denizens of the Underdark. At one point, they run into a drow raiding party, and they sight them off in the distance. And Ruz expects a fight. He expects them to just sail up and fight them, because there's only 4 or 5 drow and probably 20 or 30
Pirates.
of the pirates. And instead the captain says, "No, we're going to want to take the long passage around and come up from behind." And Ruz says, "Why? We outnumber them." And he says, "Yar, it be our way. We're tunnel pirates. We always take the rear passage."
You always come from behind.
Oh my gosh.
Or come in behind, whatever.
So after a few weeks, Ruz and Meryl are pretty much trusted crew members of the Dark Spear. They take their turns rowing the strange oars, and the captain explains that the oars actually are magical oars, and part of the oar is actually permanently in the elemental chaos, and so they're actually rowing against the sort of primordial water of the elemental chaos to move the ship.
Oh, that's really neat.
And there's also some magic involved, and he says that the drill in the front of the ship is able to create a passage for them to move through the very stone of the earth, if need be. It's just an incredible vessel. But Ruz already seems to know maybe a little more than he ought to about the ship. And after a few weeks, he begins talking to the crew members, sort of in private, sort of holding these secret conferences. And Meryl is wondering kind of what's going on. And a few weeks pass, and suddenly the crew rises up in mutiny against the captain. And after a short battle, he and the first mate are killed and thrown overboard into a great chasm in the Underdark.
Not Dick, no. He's my favorite character.
Longshaft and Dick are dead. And so Ruz takes command of the Dark Spear, and this was his assignment all along, was to kill the captain of the ship and deliver this this amazing ship to buyers who are interested in trying to duplicate it for use for their own purposes and possibly in war. And so he delivers the ship to his buyers with the full crew and promises of great reward to the crew if they cooperate with these new masters and help them understand the workings of the ship. There's a small gnome engineer aboard the ship who understands probably better than anyone how the ship works, and so he's loaded down with gold, and he's had the experience of being a pirate of the Underdark, and he feels pretty good. He's got a good bit of money, and he feels like maybe he can take it easy for a while and live it up a bit. So he returns to Suzale. He and Meryl, and they eventually part ways because Ruz is sort of settled into a pattern of debauchery. You know, he's out all night, spending his money and living it up, and you know, he's at a different club every night as a different person, just spending gold like it was water, just like it's going out of style. And so they part ways, and for a while Ruz feels happy. He's sort of forgotten about some of the things in his past, but after a while he starts to grow discontented with this way of life, and starts to wonder if maybe there's not something more that he's meant for. And one day when he's sort of thinking these thoughts, and his thoughts drift back to his sister, whom he barely remembers, and his mother, whom he can just barely remember a voice. He feels a heat on his chest, and he lifts out the Harper amulet, which he had almost forgotten that he had. And it begins to heat up, and he's looking at it, and it just shatters into a 1,000 pieces, and he finds himself back in the Great Hall of the Harpers, so many months in the past, where he had first been given the amulet. So that's Ruz's journey. Meryl's journey splits off at that point, so I think he's got some.
Yeah, it does. She doesn't go quite as far as you. After they split ways, not wanting to return to her uncaring home, she takes the first boat out of the city, not really caring about the destination. After a few days, the ship's attacked. Meryl runs above deck, looks out over the water, and sees a pirate ship readying to board and hijack this ship. She places her left palm firmly on her face and says, "Not again." And then she grabs the Harper's amulet and gives it a tug, and she done.
Forces it. She forces it to break.
She rage
She's
quits
like, no,
on the pirate
no,
encounter.
I'm not doing this crap
again. 3 pirates is too much.
Meryl has disconnected from the game.
All right, so we learned that Ruz went into crazy debauchery and realized, hey, this life isn't that great. Dun, dun, dun.
Maybe
Goes back
he'll
to being
become.
Harper.
Maybe he'll become unaligned. Oh, he is.
Yeah.
Moral parables.
Thinking you were evil.
Moral parables.
No,
And then
stupid.
the lesson from Meryl is pirates suck.
3 pirates is too many.
In reality,
3 pirates is too much.
1 pirate, shame on me. 2 pirates, shame on you.
3 pirates
Screw
is the crowd,
this.
and we need
Screw this, I'm going home.
That's the moral of the story. So, all right.
And Ruse robs from old men with glasses.
That's so wrong.
He robs from the rich and also from the poor.
And also, he robs equally.
He robs from
An
the rich
equal
and
opportunity
apparently
thief.
the disabled.
Equal opportunity
Because it's
thief.
easy. All
So,
right.
It's like taking candy from an old
let's roll
blind
to
man.
a more magical, fagical story, and we'll
Fagical?
roll with
Keyword there is fagical.
Fagical.
I'm gonna have to turn this video like 18 and plus. You realize?
Yeah. Let's switch to
Let's play some copyrighted music so you
Written.
really can't post it.
yeah.
Do.
Which that's one thing I want to talk to you about later. So we'll give Brennan a shot and tell what happens to him as keys fly across the room.